And we are live.
Alrighty then, we are live. So hi everybody, peace and blessings to everybody. I greet you with a greeting of Islam. So I just wanted to say welcome. Thank you guys for coming out to our Islam Awareness Week Wednesday talk. We're going to talk about Black History Month with our esteemed panelists that we have today. For those of us who are joining us for the first time, MSA UCR is hosting Islam Awareness Week. This current week, what we're doing, our purpose is to share information of our faith to others and connect more closely with the community. We do not want to be starting any debates nor cause anyone to feel uncomfortable. If you did feel a certain way, please feel free to let us know through our survey. We'll be sending towards the later half of this event. And be as honest as you want, as critique as you want. Do what you got to do. We're going to get it going. So just as a recap, yesterday we had our Prophets and Revelations talk with the amazing Dr. Imad Bayoun, which went on for an amazing talk. It was wonderful. And so many great things were going on. The chat was phenomenal. Tomorrow we're going to be having our afterlife talk. It's going to be happening at 3:30. And then so we're going to be doing is we're going to be having a nice talk going about the afterlife in from the Islamic perspective and the point of view. And afterwards, we're going to have some breakout sessions with some speakers to go over the week, and any questions you guys have, feel free to come through. It'll be a very open, great vibe type of session. So just real quick, I want to introduce our team. My name is Jafar Iman. I'm a senior here at UC Riverside. In the very top middle, I got that way. It's Safi Bejwa. It's my guy. And then also in the very, very top right, oops, I got my man Sean, and then after that we have our two amazing speakers. We have right on top of me is my guy Malek Bendelhoum, and then we also have on the right Mr. Brother Umar Hakim. And so the third and final option I also wanted to tell you guys is that to continue coming to these events, and I wanted to discuss the raffle tickets that we will be having as the events go on throughout the week. So what's going to be happening is that every day when you sign up on the Google survey form, they will see on the comments, you'll be able to put yourself within a raffle. And so we have two types of prizes. We got the small prizes, and then we got the big prizes. So be able to go put yourself within those raffle prizes. And so next, I want to hand it off to my boy Safi Bejwa.
Okay. Thank you, Jafar. I do just quickly want to mention that this event is a collaboration with Sahaba Initiative. As you can see in the background, we have their building as our little overlay. And they have honestly been such amazing mentors and helpers throughout the event, and they've made everything super successful. So shout out to them. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and kick off the panel with introductions of our speakers. And so our first speaker is Malek Bendelhoum. Malek serves as the executive director at the Islamic Shura Council of Southern California, a nonprofit umbrella organization that assists Muslim organizations in serving the Muslim community of SoCal and the society at large. It represents the united voice of its 74 member mosques and Muslim organizations. It coordinates community activities, enables effective communication, advocates on behalf of its member organizations, and fosters leadership development. Malek started college at 16 as a student at Riverside Community College. He co-founded Sahaba Initiative, who we're collaborating with. And the Sahaba Initiative was recently voted Nonprofit of the Year in California in 2018. Malek is also an alumni of UCR with a bachelor's degree in political science and forensic psychology. He's a former director of the Islamic Center of the Inland Empire and is a board member of the United States Council of Muslim Organizations. He received several honors, including being selected by Assemblywoman Eloise Gomez Reyes as one of the 30 most influential people under age 30 in her district.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
All right, thank you, Brother Malek and Brother Safi. I'll be introducing our next guest on the panel today is Omar Hakim. So Omar Hakim serves as an executive director of ILM, which stands for Intellect, Love, and Mercy Foundation. After a 13-year career in telecommunications, Omar shifted careers to become an urban entrepreneur, which opened him to social and community service. He earned a business management degree from the University of Phoenix and a master's degree in ethical leadership from Claremont Lincoln. Omar is now responsible for facilitating ILM's socialpreneur vision for social change, where that change means providing an intuitive educational experience that empowers local Angelinos. Omar draws on the key principle of facilitative leadership to coordinate ILM's programming, which include Humanitarian Day, Go Beyond the Game, and Seed. Omar is an active alum with American Muslim Civic Leadership Institute, and he is a facilitator trainer for its national program housed at USC Center of Religion, Civic Culture. Through this training, he contributed to civic social organizations, including New Ground Muslim, Jewish Partnership for Change, created a partnership with California/LA Voice Pico Network, and is an active participant with the City of LA Emergency Operations Center for Disaster Response and Relief. In 2012, Omar found his principal for IN Encourage, which is an advisory organization that believes encouragement is a stronger tool for consulting and social media content. Their focus is to design encouraging next steps for leaders in need of clarity so professionals can better connect socially and lead a successful culture. Without further ado, Omar Hakim.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. How you doing?
Salam.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
Perfect. So inshallah, now I'm going to be introducing our third and final speaker. Is going to be Sheikh Jibreel. So last but not least, our third panelist is going to be Sheikh Jibreel, as I just said. Just for some quick clarification, when we refer to somebody as a sheikh like Jibreel Speight, we are acknowledging that they have had some professional Islamic training and are considering a scholar within our faith. Sheikh Jibreel received his Islamic education at al-Qura University in Mecca, where he earned degrees in judicature and Islamic legal theory. Beyond his university studies, he memorized the Quran and learned other Islamic disciplines, including an in-depth study of the Maliki School of Law. He's currently the director of Muslim Life at Chapman University and an IOK seminary instructor. With all of that said, we will now be beginning our first questions directed to all three of our speakers. And first, I want to just say thank you, everybody, for just go up in the comments. Any questions you guys have, we'll be handling those as we go. So the first question that I have to all the panelists is going to be, how was your experience like growing up in America being Black and Muslim?
I'm gonna ask if our Sheikh, inshallah, can start.
Okay. In the name of God, or in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the bestower of mercy, praise and thanks belong only to Him. Peace and blessings be upon the one that's been sent as a mercy to all the creation, Prophet Muhammad, and upon his family, his companions, and those that follow them excellently until the day of judgment. The question was asked about, once again, about being Black and being a Muslim, right?
Yeah. So what was your how was your experience like growing up and then being Black and Muslim in America?
Well, let's see. I accepted Islam 30 years ago. So I can probably, I'll try to answer that question as follows. With respect to me growing up as Black, that was something, of course, that was, with me growing up, it really wasn't something that was told to me, hey, you're Black. You know, it was, I just grew up, and I see in one of your questions, of course, there's a question about racism later on, and I can talk about that. But in any event, I mean, growing up, how Allah has fashioned me didn't bother me whatsoever. I was blessed to be in a family where being confident about oneself and education, etc., that was what was important. Yes, my folks were involved in the civil rights and what have you, but as far as recognizing that I was Black, that really didn't take place until probably when I was in high school, when I went to a predominantly white Catholic school. And it was there that I think first time I was exposed to a racial issue was when the Reverend Jesse Jackson was talking about the need for Black Americans to call themselves African American. I don't know, y'all may be a little bit too young to hear stuff like that, but I don't know. But that's what that's what I heard. And then we had a debate about it in one of our classes. And so here I am being the only one that is talking about it, because to be honest with you, I didn't even think about it like that. until it was presented by Jesse Jackson. I think it was during that time he was running for president. University. And it was from there that I was deeply exposed to and chose to learn more history, although that was not my major. And I was exposed to, of course, different readings and what have you, related to, of course, the experience of being a Black American. So that is my answer. It's a very boring answer, to be honest with you. But the reality is that I wasn't really, wasn't a thing of, oh my gosh, I'm Black. It was, I knew I was Black. Everybody knew I was Black. And you either deal with it or you don't deal with it. As far as myself, you know, I was just going to try to make it through this life. This is before, you know, I was introduced to Islam and started searching. And then after that, after I did embrace Islam, again, the thing of me being told I was Black, or the realization or feeling Black and Muslim, if you will, that again, I didn't really feel like that, at least in my community. It was in fact, what drew me to Islam, amongst other things, the theological being the most important, is the fact that I was very impressed by the multiplicity of ethnicities coming together and actually praying and putting their face on the ground to their creator. And I thought that was an amazing thing to see. So that is my answer.
That was a beautiful answer. I mean, for me, I enjoyed every word of it. So I'm next, if Brother Omar, if you can also continue on with the same question, and I'll repeat it again. How was it your experience growing up being Black and Muslim in America?
Man, why I gotta come behind my brother Jibreel, man? That boy, you sharp, man. You sharp. You sharp. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Black and Muslim. Growing up, my mother is from South America. So I had more of an identity growing up as Guyanese and Guyanese American. The question of being Black never really came to me. And then I didn't know I was Muslim until 1998. I took my Shahada in 1998. But growing up in the city of Compton, California, I experienced a lot. I experienced the struggles of our people. I experienced the struggles of my mom being an immigrant woman from South America. Her first encounter with racism was from our own people, because they mistaken her, even though we are descendants of Africans. The ignorance here when she got here was like, go back to such and such, you such and such scratcher, you feel me? So through that lens, she taught me to be a good person, So I never really questioned being Black, because I was raised around the Latino community, the Samoan community, as well as the African American community. And we was just in the city of Compton, we was just all seen as family to one another. Fast forward to 1997, when I received my first Quran from one of my customers. I was a telecommunications technician. And I'm looking on her wall, and she has the family tree starting from Adam alayhi salam, you know, goes down. And that's the first time that because I said, who's all those people? Because I was raised in the Episcopal Church. I was an alkalite. I rang the bell, carried the cross, all of that. So that was my understanding of piety, taqwa, all that, right? So I looked on her wall and said, who's that? She said, brother, that's your family. I'm like, what you mean that's my family? That's the righteous side of your heritage. I was like, whoa. So I got to look at some of the names I was familiar with. I was more familiar with the names when you get down to Abraham alayhi salam, broke down to his two sons. I was more familiar with the Jewish side, but it broke down to Ishmael. Then it went down to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when she explained that to me, it started clicking. There's a bigger picture to my blackness, to my heritage. And that's when my first teacher was a sister by the name of Sister Rebecca Smith. And that's when she started in 1997. She gave me my Quran. And then when I read that book I read the speech of Allah for the next 6 months in my cable truck, wherever I went. And that's when things started clicking. I started clicking my Christian heritage with what Allah tells us in the Quran, how everything comes from Abraham and we all family. And then all the stories about the prophets from Jesus, alayhi salam, son of Miriam, to Musa, it all started making sense. Then on July 3rd, 1997 is when my blackness met its appointment with Al-Islam. I was at Omar Ibn Al-Khattab across the street from USC. And that's when I said, Ashhadu Allah ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. And to translate that for those who's watching, that means I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of God, Allah being a proper Arabic word for God. So I'm going to end right here, but growing up, as Sheikh Jibreel mentioned, we wear 3 hats: black man, African American, and a Muslim in this country. So, and I didn't come in contact with my Muslim hat until 1998. So I had a good time growing up, honestly. A lot of what I learned in Compton became transferable skills into what I'm doing now. It transfer not only skills, but awareness of what I'm doing now.
Oh, that was beautiful. And just one real quick thing I wanted to point that was so amazing to me is that you remember the day so clearly, July 3rd, 1998, because of the imprint it had on you and that third hat that you came in. That was so beautiful. And
yeah,
so,
it was the day before the 4th of July. I couldn't eat no barbecue.
Hey, hold on. Hey, man, look, hold on. I wasn't even thinking about that. I just wanted to say, man, I was on the road.
I remember it clearly because, not to cut anybody off, because
no, go for it. Yeah.
The sister said, "Okay, you ready to take a shot?" I said, "Yeah." So she set it up for July 3rd, right?
Mm-hmm.
If anybody knows the American tradition, the next day is the 4th of July.
Yes.
Fireworks, barbecue, all of that. That was the first time I didn't participate at that level of I had a different understanding, and I couldn't, nobody in my neighborhood made beef ribs. You know what I'm saying? It was all, so I cut my whole diet changed overnight. So I went cold turkey when I became Muslim on July 3rd, 1998. And I'm really happy that Allah gave me my appointment to become Muslim on that day.
Wow, it's amazing. And then Malek, if you could please.
Oh man, this is the worst possible position coming after both of them, mashallah. Kind of like how Omar mentioned that, oftentimes we end up wearing different hats, right? So the hat of being African American, right, black, the hat of being Muslim. And, one thing, personally for myself is that I often also have an additional hat that I wear. So just kind of a little bit about my background. My mother is, African American, born and raised in the South. And my father is Algerian from North Africa. And, my mother, accepted Islam actually, when she was in college. So I always like kind of joke about it. People always ask me, okay, like, where are you from? I'm like, listen, I'm literally the definition of African American, because my dad is from Africa, my mom is from right here in the South. You don't get much more American than the South. So I'm literally the definition of African American, right? But specifically, like my father, if you were to see my father, he's very, very light in complexion, and my mother is dark in complexion. So color was always something that was very apparent to me very early on, especially given, so I'm one of 5 children. 2 of my siblings, my 2 oldest siblings, are very light, and the rest of us are actually dark, right? So color was always something that was very apparent to us. But one thing that I was always very blessed with was that my parents always kind of instilled in us that it doesn't matter whether, this or that or what, all the other identities are, that at the end of the day, that, our Islam, our religion, gives us honor no matter what we look like. And that comes from God, and nothing can take that away, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he tells us in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam, that he has given that honor on all of the children of Adam. And that was something that was ingrained in us when we were kids. So the color necessarily was never something that really was too much to us. And of course it became abundantly clear, for instance, when I'm going and visiting my family in the South, right? For anyone who's been in the Deep South, and just to give you an idea, so the overwhelming majority of my family, all Baptist Christian, Bible stompers. My grandfather was the deacon, not only like that was a head deacon in the church. My grandmother was in charge of the Sunday school curriculum for all Baptist North Star Baptist churches in Birmingham, Alabama. So we're talking about in the heart of it, right? I had family members and everything who were part of the civil rights movements and all of it, right? So that history was always ingrained in us. But one thing that my parents always made sure that was clear with us is that where our honor, where our dignity always comes from is God. And that is not that's not something that anything can take away from you. It doesn't matter where you're from, what you look like, that your dignity comes from God, right? And that is always something that helped me throughout life, no matter kind of what hat that I would have to wear. Because, as I think we'll kind of talk about this a little bit later, but depending on which hat you're wearing, you're going to catch something one way or another. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people are finally starting to realize and know and understand that, driving while black is something that's real. And while I'm driving and getting pulled over, you think that the car, or they care about where I'm from, that, oh no, wait, brother, I'm half Algerian, right? They don't care. To them, I'm black. They don't care, right? And the opposite is true, right? That, for instance, maybe I'm speaking and everything, for the most part, when people first see me, right, they think, oh yeah, 100% African American, right? And then they'll hear maybe the way that I pronounce words, and they're like, oh snap, like, what is this, right? They get surprised, right? Because they can't, necessarily place you in one way or another, right? So, one thing that I've always had to deal with actually is that, for instance, I might not be as black to black people just because I might have a half of something else. But then, maybe for the other end, it's like, well, you have that half of that, so you're not fully in there, right? But when it comes down to it, and, like, for instance, when I'm getting pulled over, it's because I'm black. When I was 15 years old, I was actually put on the no-fly list. Why? Because of my name, because I was Muslim, right? Because I was Algerian. And that was literally actually the reason that it happened, right? So, when it came to, some of these different situations, right, it didn't matter, right? That didn't matter that I was half this or half that, right? And that's something that I have always kind of had to navigate. But something, like I said, that my parents kind of instilled in me in the very beginning when I was young, that look, your honor, your dignity as a human being comes from God. It doesn't matter all of these other things, it comes from God. And as long as you have that and you're strong in that, you'll be good no matter what happens. And that truly made whatever type of situation that I went through, whether it was, because I was black or, because I was Muslim or whatever, that really kind of held me down and allowed me to be able to persevere through whatever instance that I was going through.
Wow, that was amazing, and just drawing from all three things that what you all said from Sheikh Jibreel, brother Umar, brother Umar, I'm sorry, and then brother Malek, how it shows. It was amazing to me how you all related that feeling of dignity to internally your connection, your spirituality to God, and how it really just took a number on like how you were, and then it was so amazing and powerful and influential in your lives. So that was very beautiful, and it was just it hit me in the heart when you guys said that. And so I wanted to ask another question to just build off of this right here. And that, so did you ever encounter any personal forms of racism? And if so, how did you cope with that? How were you able to translate that into a way that you'll be able to deal with going forward? And if I can start with brother Sheikh Jibreel, if it's okay.
Sure. I'll give the following instances. The first one was when I was a teenager and I was working at Burger King, and it was there that most of the staff, we were making breakfast. Yeah, we were the breakfast staff. So we were, most of us were younger. And Latina came in. She wasn't happy with her order. And she said, "You effing ends." So there you go. That's the first time I was called. That was first time I was like, "Oh, okay." It's like the response to that was, well, well, we're Muslim. I think you probably get the idea of what perhaps the response was to that. So, the second instance of racism that I went through was in high school, where we had to deal with some students. Well, actually, no, let me take that back. Yeah, with some students who we got into a fight basically after ball game. Was some of us versus some of the white guys. We got into a fight. So that was the second one. Third one was when I was in university, and that one was interestingly enough, and not surprisingly, because Brother Malek had touched upon it, was the issue of colorism. And I was a member of a fraternity at one time. And one of the biggest reasons why I joined a frat was a black fraternity. The founders of the frat that I joined, the reason why they started their frat in the first place was because they were dark-skinned. They were rejected because they were too dark to join the other fraternities. And that really was very interesting, because during my time growing up within the university, I did see that colorism take place. And interestingly enough, being dark became something of a fad due to rappers like Big Daddy Kane and others and whatnot. Prior to that, if you were light, you were beautiful, and if not, that's the case. But that changed due to media and particularly entertainment. So those are three instances that I experienced. Some of them was due to people that look like me. Some of them people who don't look like me. So yeah.
Wow, that was powerful. And if I can just continue on with just the way the cycle we went. So, Brother Ahmed, if you can go next and answering that question of, your experiences going through racism in the past.
Growing up in Compton, California again, up until maybe 18, I stayed within my bubble. You know what I'm saying? And I think, as I'm thinking right now, because I'm really trying to be organic with this response, is that, how can I say this? How the brown and the black was put against each other in my community. And man, this is rough. Gang violence. I'm just gonna say it. I'm from a certain neighborhood, and it was a certain point in time in the city of Compton where the brown and black thing took off. And you would think that I would got my first ounce of racism from white people or somebody like of that nature, but at the time, we was told the conversation was they Mexican. Look at them like that. Or, you know, vice versa. They called you Mayate, something like that. You know what I'm saying? And now that I'm older and thinking back, the gangs pitted us against one another it was an internal racism that was going on in our community to hate who we are. And now that I'm really thinking as well, the books that we were given in school, they always had my people dehumanized. Or, you know, when you think of Africa, you think of somebody that's wildly looking. So I was introduced to racism through gangs and through the curriculum in the McGraw-Hill school books. They really didn't give my people any type of dignity, because I grew up thinking that myself, I don't want to go to Africa. But as I grew up, it's a beautiful place. My wife is from Africa. You feel me? They got some of the most beautiful homes. You know, no debt. You know, if you ain't got the money, they ain't got no interest. You know what I'm saying? So if you ain't got the money, you know, you buy. You know what I'm saying? But I was given a poor look of self through the education curriculum here in the United States that made me take it out on not only on myself, but on others within my own community. You know what I'm saying? And now that I think about it, now that I'm older, became Muslim, that was my first introduction to institutionalized racism, how we were taught to look at our own heritage as something ugly. And because of that, I didn't associate with many of my family from Guyana, because I was under that understanding that, you know, how my mother bumped into racism, I was now thinking like that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, the curriculum, that's why we got to get this curriculum straight, you know, get better books, you know, books in our schools, you know what I'm saying? It's not our story, it's his story. It's definitely his story. And this is why I think why we do what we do, because we was given a negative image, you know. And if it was, and then Allah gave me hip hop, KRS-One, Public Enemy. These songs ignited something in me to really start researching who I am. So yeah, through the street life in the city of Compton and through the curriculum in the Compton Unified School District at the time, there was no such thing as Black Studies, or no mentors coming to our schools telling us who we are, this, that, and the other. So yeah, that was my first douse of racism for me.
No, you good. I was just gonna say, Malek, you know, you good to go, man.
Yeah, you know, subhanAllah, my first instance of racism, I can actually kind of, at least this is the first one that I remember. It was my father, my older brother, and myself. We were driving from Birmingham, Alabama, to a smaller town called Thomasville, and in Alabama and in, you know, the general South, I mean, there are places even until today where if you're Black, you don't go in those areas. And, you know, I mean, I was maybe 11, 10, somewhere around there. I was fairly young. And I specifically remember we were at a gas station. My dad is filling up gas. So basically in the South, how it works is, you know, you fill up your gas first and then you go and pay, right? So especially, you know, when you're kind of in the smaller areas, everyone knows each other. So when a new person is coming through, you know, they kind of get out and come and look at you and whatnot. So at first, you know, as we're driving up, all these people, like I remember like seeing all the people who are kind of in the like, you know, the shop area and whatnot, like coming out, like looking at us. And then my dad got out and they were like, oh, okay, you know, like, because I mentioned my dad is, you know, a lot lighter in complexion. So they're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's cool. And then I remember as we're finishing up, my dad is getting ready to go, you know, pay. And the guy's like, no, let me come out there to you. Right. So he's coming to him and, you know, my dad is, you know, getting ready to pay and whatnot. And I specifically remember the guy, you know, he was the friendliest guy, everything. Oh, yeah. Where are you? Oh, you're going there. You know how to get there. And, you know, my dad, my son, you know, we have the map. I don't know if, you know, I'm sure, you know, Omar and Sheikh Jibreel can remember, you know, those Thomas Brothers maps. So, you know, my dad is like, oh, no, we got our map. We're good. We're set. And he's like, yeah, you know, my son is, you know, a great navigator. He's getting us. And I remember the guy looking back and he was like, oh, yeah, you look like you got a great navigator in there. And I remember he's looking directly at my brother. But then when he looks to the back and he sees me, I remember his face changing. Like fully changing. That memory is like ingrained in me. And I remember he looked right at my dad and he said, you better effing get out of here now with that N. Straight up. And, you know, my dad was, you know, the type of person, he didn't take anything. So literally, I mean, he looked right at the guy and he was like, you will never address my son or anything in that way ever again. And like got right up in this guy's face, which kind of made him back off. And then we ended up leaving. But I specifically remember that situation because, you know, I was so young. And I mean, this guy was so friendly and everything was great until the very second that he saw me in that backseat. And that was something that kind of always stuck to me, you know, that just something so small like that would be able to change someone, the way that they're acting or reacting to someone. And I specifically, you know, remember like my dad telling me at that point, remember, your dignity comes from Allah. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, as long as, you know, and his thing was, you know, always make sure you hold tight to the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no matter what anyone says, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. That basically means that you are acting as an upright person following the commandments of God. And as long as you do that, it doesn't matter what anyone says to you. Do not ever let anyone put you down, no matter what they say. And you know, I always, for me, you know, that was a you know, a really big moment in my life, because that kind of gave me, you know, no matter what happens, you know what I mean, that it solidified with me that kind of strength, I guess. And you know, that thing, you know, thank God, like that helped me, you know, throughout my life. You know, I've unfortunately, you know, dealt with varying different, you know, types of racism from, you know, outside of the community. You know, I mentioned earlier, you know, whether it was being stopped by the cops. I was pulled over with my wife, maybe like 2-3 months ago. And literally the cop, you know, pulls us over, looking inside. This your car? You sure you live in this area? Because, you know, I guess it's too nice of an area for me to live in. I'm just like, literally stopping me for no other reason other than that, right? Or, you know, like I had mentioned earlier, being on a no-fly list at 15 years old, like, you know, all of these different things. I unfortunately, you know, I've witnessed these, you know, from outside of the community. I've even witnessed it from inside of my own community. I specifically remember when I got married, and, you know, alhamdulillah, you know, my wife is, you know, a black woman, alhamdulillah, mashallah, you know, she is proud. And I remember when I, you know, told people, hey, yeah, I got engaged, you know, everyone is happy and whatnot. And then when I had put a picture up of my wife, I remember literally a few people actually came up to me and they were like, oh, this is your wife? You could have gotten married to someone so much lighter. Why are you sure with her? Literally, I'm not even joking. Like, this was straight up said to me, right? And this, you know, unfortunately is how a lot of people think. But it's something that, you know, we as, you know, individuals and that, you know, programs like this can, inshallah, you know, helps sort of try and make people understand. And as long as we are proud of who we are and know and understand, like Omar mentioned, right, that who we are and the color of our skin is not something that we should be ashamed of. It is something that is beautiful. It is something that is amazing. We have, you know, such an amazing, powerful, and beautiful history, and it's something that we should be proud of. And the diversity in our languages and races and all of these things, it builds the beautiful tapestry of the human race, and it does not belittle or diminish anything within any of us. That it just builds upon each other and truly, you know, beautifies one another. But yeah,
wow, that was was just, I mean, amazing. And then, I mean, I felt like the way you just described the man, how his eyes just switched to you. I mean, I just imagine that. I couldn't even imagine being 13 years old and seeing something like that. And I mean, it's so profound how, just to connect all the points that these three amazing speakers have said for everybody in the comments, is that looking how the psychological effects of racism really leave an imprint on your mind. I mean, Malik, I mean, that was so long ago. You remember that. Brother Umar, so long ago. Brother Jibreel, the same thing. And one thing I wanted to personally connect to what Brother Umar said, being an African-American male, and I'm 22 years old, is that, for me, when I was in middle school, I grew up in a pretty diverse middle school with Hispanics and African-Americans and, very few white people. And I still heard the things when people be talking about Africa and they'll be like, oh, it's rugged, it's broken down, they got monkeys swinging from the trees, all this nonsense. And then I'm sitting there, and then for my people who know, my family's from Somalia. So I went to my dad. I'm like, Dad, I hear these people chirping about this. Is this real? And he looked at me and said, man, they don't know what they're talking about. That's what people want you to believe to put you down so that they don't let your dignity show. Because once you take away a man's dignity, when you take that away, then they're truly vulnerable. But the one thing is that amazing how Malek said, and all three of these amazing speakers have really connected on, is that their dignity has never been taken away and they will never allow it to do it. Because once you have that foundational dignity, it's so profound. And that was so amazing. And I want to ask another question, is that there's a lot of amazing African-American leaders that we've seen throughout history, Muslim or not. Which ones have left a profound impact on you guys, and that you still want to, look at towards today, or maybe if it moved to somebody else? So, Brother Sheikh Jibreel, if you can please answer this question first, I would appreciate that.
Oftentimes, when a question like this is asked, I'm assuming that, we're going to be honest and be talking and just have straight up, 100% talk and everything as has been said and everything. Oftentimes when I'm asked this question, and I specifically hear this particularly from my brothers and sisters in the deen who are not Black American, and now there's this affinity to, of course, Malek Shabazz. All right. Again, I'll say it again. I think it was can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I was saying that, if we're going to keep this real, I'm assuming that's what we're going to do. We find that oftentimes that, our brothers and sisters who are not African American or not Black American Muslims, you find them, now having this idea of, we need to really, have reverence toward our brother Al-Hajj Malek Shabazz, aka Malcolm X, rahimahullah. May Allah have mercy upon him. And that seems to be like the most common one. Every time I'm asked that question, I get the feeling that people are going to think that's what I'm going to say. So let me just say this right now. When I was in the university, I did read his autobiography. Sure did. I also read The Judas Factor, The Plot to Kill Malcolm X by Carl Evans. It's a book that y'all need to read as well. But he is not who I would, ironically, this might shock some people, that's not who I would like to talk to. Let me tell you who I like to talk to if I had an opportunity. His name is Salti Muhammad. Salti Muhammad. All right. From Sudan. And may God have mercy upon him. He came over here in the 1920s. All right. What's so special about him? First of all, he came during the Jim Crow period. All right. And he came over here as an ambassador, if you will, to promote Islam. And he established various organizations. And he also did his organizations by working with primarily in the cities at that time. Keep in mind that while this is going on, you got figures like W.B. Du Bois, you got Marcus Garvey going on and everything. Yet, and so he's over here, and what is he doing? He's engaging the people about what Islam is in the Jim Crow area, and at the same time, he's also addressing the Noble Jew Ali. You ever heard of Noble Jew Ali? You ever heard of him before? All right, the Noble Jew Ali was someone that was, let's just say that he represented, and he did not represent Islam the right way. And our brother Salti Muhammad decided, you know what, we need to address this because he was very concerned about a wrong image about what Islam is. So that's the kind of person I would like to meet. Somebody that was concerned about getting involved in the city that he was in by talking about Islam, by also making very clear what is Islam, what is not Islam. Let me tell you something else about this man too. Some reports indicate that, you know, he had tried to write articles in newspapers at the time by the corporate media, still is the corporate media today, all right? Because they were very, very foul and very vile toward Islam. And he wanted to write articles refuting what they had to say. He was rejected by newspapers and he wound up suing them to get an opportunity to have his voice be said there, right? That's the type of person I think is very interesting. He was a prelude of sorts to what we call ourselves having, reverence towards. Way back in the early 1920s, when he was dealing with as well the different black leaders at during that time period, as well as dealing with people that were not representing Islam the right way. Yet and still, he was still dealing with that, as well as dealing with misconceptions that were said by others who may have looked like him, i.e. the same skin color or not. So that's the kind of person I would be interested in meeting. God knows best.
Amazing. Brother Ahmad, if you can also continue on with that.
Question again, please.
Yeah, so it would be just looking at how we had a lot of great African American leaders, you know, throughout our history. Which one was that had the greatest impact upon you, and that you still look at, you know, today, and then say, you know, just really try to emulate that person the best way that you can.
Okay. There's three individuals that come to my mind, and they are here today. Naeem Shaw Sr., affectionately known as Papa Shaw. I grew up without a father. When you come in contact with this man, by the valor of his voice, you stand up straight. His history here in the United States as a starting off in the Nation of Islam, and then he embraced Al-Islam in like 75, 76. He gave you the protocol on how to be a man. To this day, he's still, you know, whenever you're around this man, you have to stand up straight. Because if he sense any sugar in you, you know, if he detect that in you, he's going to come at you in a way to dilute that and make you become proud of who you are. The second person, of course, is Imam Sadiq Safir. These are people who are alive today. You know what I mean? And no disrespect to my historical figures, you know what I'm saying? But Imam Sadiq Safir, the way he taught us how to organize, and how he taught, I watched him and Naeem, the way they studied the Quran. You got the Quran, you got the Hadith, then you get your concordance, you got your tafsir, and you put all that into a talk. So before that, coming into Islam, my brain was everywhere. You know, I knew I had intelligence, but when I started studying under the man who created the foundation called Intellect, Love, and Mercy, I started learning how to use my intellect. So Imam Sadiq Safir, and he wasn't about just one sect of people. He nurtured us in the way to bring everybody into the fold. If I can't see you as a Muslim, I think of you as one of God's creation souls. And he taught us how to organize in this fashion. Hassan Shahid. If you ever meet this sister, her history going into the prisons, being one of the first women going into the prisons to do dawah. Here's a woman going into the prisons in the 70s where there was no chaplain system really created then, and then, or at least it didn't belong to the Muslims. She had the heart to stand up with the brothers and go into these dark situations and do dawah in the prisons. And then her personality is so loving, you know what I'm saying? So, and then you will have Imam A.K. Hassan. Most of the Muslim communities on the East Coast were set up by him. He was given the mission to establish Muslim communities, and he was taught. He came up under. He's a student of Malcolm X. His family's out of the Marcus Garvey movement. So most of your Muslim communities, whether it's were established, he was sent to open mosques on the east side of the United States. So these individuals is who I get my demeanor from, my respect from. And, you know, today you can still get the oral narrative from them. What was Malcolm like? What was the Black movement like? So these three individuals who are honored today, and I'm thankful that I could stand, I guess, on their shoulders and continue in this work.
That was phenomenal. And then Brother Malek?
You know, subhanAllah, I mean, just kind of going off of you know, what Omar mentioned, I mean, we have such a wealth of figures within our community, you know, Papa Shah, Imam Siddiq Safir, Imam Abdul Karim Hassan. As he mentioned, these are people who are still here right now, who have literally laid the foundation for our Southern California community and beyond, right? And you know, just talking to the Muslims in the audience real quickly, we need to know these individuals, because without these individuals, we would not be where we are today. The Muslim community here in Southern California, just very specifically, would not be where we are today without Imam Abdul Karim Hassan, Imam Amin Omar, Imam Siddiq Safir, and so many others, too many to mention, Imam Harun Abdullah, right? These are individuals who spent their entire life building our community that we are here right now, and we might not even know their name, right? They established the organizations that we all may know in the community, right? Many of us might not know. So as it was mentioned earlier, right? So I'm the executive director of the Shura Council of Southern California. We're an umbrella of the mosques and Muslim organizations throughout Southern California. Many people actually don't know and don't understand Imam Harun Abdullah, right? One of the most senior imams who has passed away, may Allah have mercy on his soul, was actually the first chairman of this council, right? Imam Siddiq Safir, Imam Amin Omar, Imam Abdul Karim Hassan, all of these amazing individuals, right? You know, have been such a deep part of our history, but unfortunately, we don't often know that. So a message to the Muslims who are watching, right? We got to know who our people are, especially here. But the specific individual, you know, leader that you know, really, you know, inspires me and that I look up to, and you know, even until today, actually is Imam Siraj Wahaj. Some of us may know his name, many of us may not know his name, right? But each and every person should know who this man is, whether you're Muslim or not. For the Muslims, this is a man who I dare anyone to find in a single community, Muslim community within the United States, that he did not have a hand in either raising funds or helping to build the infrastructure of that community. I dare you to find one, right? This man has dedicated his entire life towards helping the Muslim community build its infrastructure for decades, right? If you know and understand who he is and all of the amazing efforts that he has had within the Muslim community, but not only within the Muslim community, outside of the Muslim community. When we're talking, behind us, you'll notice there's this building, Sahaba Initiative, right? In this background, you kind of see it, right? He was actually one of the people who inspired us to start Sahaba Initiative. Actually, while this was kind of just an idea and we were still figuring it out, we sat with Imam Siraj. We went to Imam Siraj and we were like, how can we really, figure all of this out, right? He was someone where within his community in Brooklyn, right, when they have their masjid there, right, their mosque that's there, but it wasn't just enough for them to create it as a safe haven for Muslims, right? Because we know about there was, drug activity and gang activity and all of that stuff in that area, right? It wasn't just enough for them to make that particular mosque a safe haven. They said, we need to go further. We have all of these people who are in the community who are killing, who are poisoning our community. They have all of these liquor stores that are selling this liquor to our community. They are keeping our community in poverty and they are poisoning us. We will not stand for that within our community. What did they do? They actually went to all of these liquor store owners and all of these people and kicked them out, not from the masjid, but on the entire area to make sure that it was a safe haven. That you know what? You can't come selling drugs in this area. You cannot come up. Because if you do, we got all of these brothers who are about to roll up on you, right? It wasn't just about this, oh yeah, this is our message. No. That, being Muslim means that all of the people that are around me are safe from me. That are safe because I am here, right? And he built that, ensuring that all of the people around him, it's not just my Muslim community, my masjid, my mosque, but all of the people around me. And that was something that always just stuck with me, right? In that, yes, we want to help our community, but we have all of the people that are around us, right? And his, amazing, just inspirational story of, ensuring that, the people that are around us, all of the people that are around us, we have to build something to ensure the safety and security of the people that are around us, that it is our job to uplift each other, not push each other down, right? And that's something that I always remember from him and always continue to remember from him and look up to him even until today. I mean, I still go to him, for advice and everything all of the time. And he's, a figure that I truly look up to. Alhamdulillah.
Wow. I mean, when you said Imam Siraj Wahash, I just immediately, I was like, oh, I know. But one thing I really wanted to highlight again about what the three of you said is that it's amazing how, of course, that you all mentioned, for example, just like, there are the Malcolms, there are the Muhammad Alis, there's so these amazing people, but the community is not only just those amazing figureheads that we all know, the whole world knows. It's built on the back of the foundations of the people that you noted. It's the people, the individuals, these heroes, honestly, that I should really be saying that we don't hear about. The Imam Siraj Wahaj, which he did all these phenomenal things, and those people, and I can tell you personally myself, is that the first person that I learned Arabic from was a black man, Imam Ronald El Amin. He was one who taught me Arabic. He taught me all the things that I know till today. And if it wasn't for him, just as Brother Omar said, when I see him, my back is straight. I ain't playing no games when I see him because the impact he's had on my life. And so to continue on with this question, if you guys are okay, I want to just let everybody know that we are going to be extending the time just a little bit, just until 5:30, not too long, if you guys are okay, because everyone's just done a phenomenal job and they're just eating up the knowledge that you guys are gaining, if that's okay with the speakers. So the next question I wanted to ask is that a lot has happened recently with the pandemic, disproportionately affecting Black and brown communities, police brutality being finally recorded, people are seeing it and highlighted towards, communities of color, and the recent protests following these events. How have you personally navigated through all of this, and what would you recommend for others to do in light of our current situation socially and racially?
Okay. I'll try to answer this question. Firstly, targeted to the Muslim audience, and if there are any non-Muslims, I want you as a non-Muslim to understand something right now. that Almighty God created me with this color, but doors were, or opportunities, or I should say, events, and a desire to submit and devote myself to the one true God, whose Arabic name is Allah, or God with a capital G, if you will. That's a choice. With that being said, as a Muslim, I have certain things that I should be using to go about dealing with the Rona or anything else that's been going on. So let me tell you what I have done. First of all, I have not let this situation really upset me. I'm going to tell you why. Because Almighty God has mentioned that he is the one that has created death and life in order to test each and every last one of you to see which of you is excellent in doing good deeds. Full stop. Elsewhere in the Quran, we have that he says with regards to the issue of the, you want to bring up the police brutality and etc. The reality is that this should be something that, even if this wasn't against black or brown people, what if it were flipped? The reality is that it was a bigger issue here, at least it's me talking now, which is to say that we have a situation where people are being a trial toward other people. We also have in the Quran as well, it mentions the fact that indeed that people have been given responsibility and power to do the right thing, but human beings love their desires and their souls and they give into it. Now, some people can't handle something like that. I'm just going to be honest with you. All right. In addition, let me also say that in the Quran, we also have the fact that looking at this, as a Muslim, I'm supposed to be looking at everybody's skin color as a sign from Almighty God, not some sort of a demarcation of, well, you know, those people are less than other people or something of that nature. And the Quran also mentions for me to pay attention to history. Well, there is allusions to that, if you will. The United States of America has always been a social experiment. I don't think people really understand that. It has been a social experiment of various peoples, if you will. And I think people have to understand that as well. So here I am telling you, drawing my lessons from the Quran, and of course, by extension as well, prophetic traditions. I'm due to time, not going to go too deep in all that as well. But I'm just going to say that those are things that first and foremost have gotten me through all of this. And on top of the fact that this is what God has decreed, man. So he wants to see what we're going to do. How we going to deal with this? You know what I'm saying? Right? So that's the first thing, is to let revelation dictate and guide me as to how I should be looking at these things. The Rona, in my humble opinion, is like an accelerant. You know, when you add accelerant to gas and then it just kind of gets a little bit more. The Rona, in actuality, in many ways, has been a good thing. Sounds strange for me to say that. But again, I'm talking like somebody that is using the Quran as someone who's trying to be a faithful believer, to understand that with every negative thing on the surface, there's a lot of good behind that. The Rona has actually done a fantastic job in exposing the evils and ills of this society. It is shown the evils of ills, and not just simply people that consistently look at and don't understand that color is a sign from. And by the way, don't get it twisted. I ain't talking about color blindness. I'm not talking about that, because somebody gonna misunderstand me. The Quran don't say nothing about being colorblind. It says look at people's color and be in awe with the color, showing the magnificent power of God. I hope everybody understands that, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim. Anyway, as far as the cultures and everything, we're supposed to love the cultures, man. Our histories. We're supposed to appreciate them. You from Somalia, East Africa. You from North Africa, well, partly North African, etc. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? All right. Brother Umar and I, we from this country. We from the belly of the beast right here. Okay. But we all have histories and everything. We should appreciate that and accept that and love it and embrace it. The question, though, is how God conscious are you? That's the real thing. That's the real question. So anyway, societally speaking, what's been going on, we can see that this has really been exposing a lot of issues that people are now recognizing, oh, wow, we really have a problem. Well, as somebody like myself, I'm very much aware of the fact that these problems have been here for a long time, not just racially or, systemically, but also economically. We don't even talk about that. We got poor white folk right now, and they're struggling, man. Bad. It's hard for them, man. All right. They're trying to figure out how they're going to eat. Here in Orange County, at the Islamic Institute of Orange County, they've been having these food drives. I'm sure other mosques have them as well. And I'll never forget Brother Jamal Zihan, who's responsible for the propagation, the Islamic propagation efforts and what have you. May God bless him. He was telling me, he said, man, sometimes the line be around the block, man, just trying to get a bag of food, man. Right? So these things actually, in many ways, are good in the sense that it has exposed the decrepit diseases that America still is going through. Internationally speaking, it's still a young country, thinking that it is one of the grand civilizations, but it's filled with diseases. So me as a Muslim, I've been seeing all that, including what's been going on with the police brutality and other things as well, and what have you. And this is a question I'm going to ask now to everybody. I think it's interesting that we are now talking about, the problem, systemic racism and everything, this, that, and the third. It's been there and whatnot. What's going to happen after a year? Now forget a year. What's going to happen this summer? Seriously, because the way I see it, stuff is kind of like not really talked about anymore. All right. And that says something as well about us as a society. Those are some thoughts that I have. Not a really precise answer, but there are, some food for thought, some things that I hope that give some people to think about, some pause.
No, that was perfect. That was a perfect answer. And so, Brother Umar, floor is all yours.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. This time last year, I was coming back from Belgium. And in Belgium, it was an international delegation. And in March, we got back like on the 9th. On the 10th, I had a talk, an engagement with the Red Cross to speak. And everything was going on lockdown. And so they asked us, we were supposed to speak about homelessness, but then they asked us to change the topic and come up with something different that next day for that day, that event. And I remember saying that I want to be better coming out of this than I came in. Due to the training that I received from the Papa Shahs, the Imam Sadiqs, the Amin Omars, Imam A.K. Hassan, and the care from Umar Hassan, I knew what to do. Don't fold, hold the line, and don't back down. Keep your trust in Allah. Because if I'm going to go out, I'm going to see my Lord. So in other words, while I'm still here, continue to work, double your efforts, and rooted within. I think Allah tell us, and my scholarly brothers could help me with this. Allah tell us in the Quran that buried within every bad there's some good. So my job was to look for the good and try to multiply that into action for us to become essential. So like automatically I dug into my network, Sahaba Initiative, Islam LA. And we all didn't think about ourselves. We started thinking about the people. As Jibreel mentioned, you got some good people laying on the ground out here. We thought about the people while we up in, this is my this is my room I'm in, but you got somebody that's on the outside in a tent. So we went to work during putting ourselves on the front line as we was trained to do, to help mankind as Allah instructed us to do in our ma'un, neighborly needs or small kindnesses. So I'm gonna end with there because I know it's 5:13, but I'm waiting to hear from Malek, my guy.
So as has been mentioned, right, that so many people are so shocked and surprised of the inequity and everything that goes on, but for many of us, we know this is the reality. It's been the reality. It's woven within the systems and everything of this country. So this is nothing new, right? For a lot of people, this is kind of their first foray into understanding it. But I mean, we've been dealing with this for generations, right? And kind of going back to what Omar had mentioned, right, is that these things are happening, right, and these inequities are happening. How can we serve the people? How can we come to the people where we are and uplift each other, right? And specific to the pandemic and kind of our work at Sahaba Initiative, in the end of 2019, there was a survey that said that there were 36 million people in the US that were food insecure. Now, basically what that means is they do not know where their next meal is coming from. 36 million people, end of 2019. By August of 2020, that number jumped up to 52 million. Less like just think about how drastic a change that is in just a few short months. Now, you can go and you can look specifically to the communities that are most affected by that, and it is very apparent, right? But the reality is that need is there. And in many ways, it's been great because there's been a spotlight that's been put on the just insane amount of need that people legitimately have, right? And that light has been shone on it, and that's a great thing, but shining a light on it isn't enough. It's not just enough for me to shine a light on it, for me to make a post one time. We actually have to take it upon ourselves to do more in whatever way that we can, whether that is, continually trying to or sharing things, whether that is actually getting down on the ground and helping people out. And, that's something beautiful that we've seen. Alhamdulillah, we praise God always, for enabling us to be able to do this. In our food pantry, we've tripled the amount that we have given out in the past year because the need is there. And you know what? People step up. People step up to help out because they see the need that is there, right? So we have all of these inequities and these situations that are happening, and the reality on the ground is the work does not change. The work does not stop. The work is always there and needs to be done. But what we need to do, especially us as individuals, is that when we are made aware of it, it's not just like, oh wow, yeah, that's deep. I need to think about that. Yeah, let me put up a black post on social media, then I'm good, right? No, we actually have to act, and that's what Allah, God Almighty, tells us, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, he tells us that if we see an injustice, we have to change it with our hand. If we're not able to, we have to speak out against it. If we can't, we at the very least hate it within our hearts, and that's the lowest level of faith. But we have to be part of fighting against whatever injustice there is, and be a part of the solution and help people in need. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. One of my favorite quotes, and I'll end with this, Muhammad Ali, right? He said that service to others is the rent we pay for our place here on earth. And I love that quote because it really sums it up in general. God blessed us with so many things, and our way that we can show our gratitude to God is to use those blessings that he gave us to help those that are in need. And I'll leave it at that.
Wow. I mean, well, I know I've said that every single after, the panelists have finished these questions, but I mean, I'm moved so much by everything you guys are saying. So I want to open up the Q&A to what some of the people I put in the chat. I'm going to start off with my man, Matthew Morris. And so he asked a very deep question where he says, how do we heal the scars in West Africa that have happened at the hands of the Muslim force? The Biafra War made us of my Fulani heritage is not well liked for its Muslim connections in Nigeria. So how do we heal the scars from wars like that to show people that we are not different and we are going to the same way towards enlightenment together? So if any of you, whoever would like to start to answer that question, Sheikh Jibreel, if you want to.
Well, I'm not really clear on the question, to be honest with you. So I can't really. How do we heal the scars from wars like that? I don't know what that's referring to show people that we are not different and we're going the same way towards enlightenment together. So there's some things here. What scars are you talking about? Yeah, please.
So the question actually before that actually was two comments. So he said how do we heal the scars in West Africa that have happened at the hands of the Muslim force? The Biafra War, which is a specific war that happened at that time, made us from my Fulani heritage is not what it like for its Muslim connections in Nigeria. So I know Matthew personally, he's from Nigeria. And then so the Muslim connections that his side of the family has over there causes some problems to happen. So he wanted to ask, how do we heal the scars from wars like that happened in the past that have repercussions until today?
I can't really, to be honest with you, I would not be, I don't think it's fair for me to answer that question in depth, to be honest with you. That I'll say that part. Healing the scars of people outside of the United States of America, and I gather that there is an effort for us to, of course, be connected, of course, with Africa, and I totally understand that. There is, however, many of us don't even know what is the Biafra War. I mean, let's just start right there from, all right? As far as the Fulani heritage, you're referring to the great Imam Uthman Danfodio. May God have mercy upon him, all right? But even that type of history is something that a lot of us are very ignorant of. We don't even know that. Again, I'm not going to discredit or discount the question because every question is important when it comes to these type of things. So I personally can't answer this question all right. But I will say this much with regards to all of Africa, whether it be Northern or Western or even Eastern Africa or even Central Africa, Southern Africa as well. We should bear in mind that there are a whole lot of different players that have contributed to the damage and the scars that exist throughout the entire continent of Africa. The Europeans have had a fantastic job in doing what they were doing in all parts of Africa. Our brother Malek can probably give us a whole bunch of stories about Algeria. All right. Probably make my hair even greater than what it is now. All right. And East Africa, you being from Somalia, I'm sure you can probably drop some stuff on us as well. West Africa, the same thing. With respect to the actions of the Muslims, the question at hand is that, well, when did that happen? How did it happen? Why did it happen, etc.? I mean, those are all questions. And so this one question, there's a whole lot of other layered questions that we need to have before we even answer this question.
Very true. And then Malik or Brother Umar, if you guys can possibly answer this question, if you may know. And before actually I let you guys do that, Matthew did put in the chase, and he's from Los Angeles. He said, but his wife is from Nigeria. And it's a topic that comes up a lot. He said, well, my family-in-law mentioned bonding with the Fulani tribes. He said they bring up the Biafra War as a reason to divide themselves, something that happened so long rather than, coming together. And he said, I'm talking about Shehu Usman's force and invasion of the Igbo Empire lands.
Yeah, I mean, that type of discussion, I don't think any of us can answer that question in 1 minute in a panel, to be honest with you. That would be unfair to all of us. Such questions require an honest, painful, historical conversation. And both parties or all the people involved in this type of question, I would suggest perhaps being objective and not emotional. But I know it's very hard to do that, right? And And then again, here's another question. I'm just wondering as well. And I look at this question, looking at the comments and whatnot. What's the benefit of the question? You know, I'm not seeing the benefit of the question in the first place. So maybe, Brother Matthew, you can reach out to me. Maybe we can have a conversation about it furthermore if you like. I don't know, but you know, I would think that, you know, we're talking to your in-laws. One of the things that maybe you might be asked is, why are we even talking about this issue right now? I mean, how is that going to help us with our current situation in LA the way it is right now? I'm just wondering. Again, Brother Matthew, you're most welcome to reach out to me. You know, maybe I can. Okay, go ahead, man. Bismillah.
You got muted, Sheikh Jibreel.
Oh, he said, no, I'll answer it right here, brother. I'm trying to unite my people to their African roots, but I'll reach out. Okay, man, I appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, if I can just quickly, you know, with questions like this, especially when you're talking about like, you know, deep-seated historical events, especially events like civil wars and different things of that nature, it's extremely difficult to start talking about and unpacking these different things, as Sheikh Jibreel said, in such a limited time frame. And, you know, like, you know, mentioning, okay, well, yeah, you know what, this Muslim country came in and started getting involved in that way, and Egypt and all you know, all of these different things. It's a lot to unpack, especially in a time like this. And I think it's extremely important, as Sheikh Jibreel said, like that you have to have a longer, honest conversation to really try and unpack these types of things, and to start, for instance, you know, that kind of truth and reconciliation type thing, to start healing from those wounds and those scars. But I think it can only happen when you have honest conversations with each other, where, you know, you are actually trying to heal and move forward.
Makes sense. I'm still trying to understand the wars between Crips and Bloods. You know what I'm saying? When I was in high school, there was a day called CC Rider where you literally had to run to the liquor store and run back. And you see, I said liquor store, you see what I'm saying? So I'm still trying to understand the fighting nigga we got on here in our community. So as well as I extend the invitation out to the brother to reach out to any of us to have this conversation. You know what I'm saying? Because I know it's important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to just reiterate what Omar just said. Like, you know, of course, we understand its importance, and because it's something that is so important, we have to give it its due. We can't just, you know, kind of just really quickly brush over it or something like that. Like it's especially something that is so deeply seated, and you know what I mean? Like that's something that has to have its due time. Sorry, Omar.
No. Something that I've learned though, when it comes to dividing people, Crips and Bloods, Fulani against such and such, we have to look at who's going to benefit from that. You know, what's the resources in that land? You know, so the people of that land probably, I can't give a recommendation, but we have to look at who is the true enemy or the true opposition in that situation. When it comes to Africa, I know that colonialism plays a major part in the resources that goes out of the country to European countries. So that may be a part of that, but that's just me thinking off the back. That's something that we have to look at, you know, and they put us against each other so they could go up and drink the water while we arguing over the water. You see what I'm saying? So, alhamdulillah.
Wow, that was deep, and I really appreciate what you guys saying. I mean, there are a lot of things that it takes a long time to answer some questions, and it's very difficult. So thank you guys. We're running out of time, a couple more minutes, but I just want to ask one question to you all, is that what recommendations do you have based on your leadership and experience to stand up for justice in a proper and effective manner?
Since my mic is off mute, don't let Black History Month stop at February 28th. Take these conversations into your own circles where we can't penetrate, and have these difficult conversations with your own people. as Malek mentioned earlier, the racism that he got from within his community. You see what I'm saying? Had these conversations within your own community, and then start and especially with places where organizers are not present. Be the organizer in your own community, in your neighborhood, to have these difficult conversations, because Black History Month is here for either to agitate and or inspire. Learn the blueprint, take the blueprint and inspire and or agitate thought, like to make people think how we're gonna get to the next level.
I would first of all, I would encourage, again, for the Muslims who in the audience to remember that we should let the revelation guide us to how we go about doing such a thing. For the non-Muslims, again, and I want to talk now to all of us who are Black American specifically, and actually Muslims as well, and non-Muslims, everybody. When I went to school, I never forget, this first time I heard this, a guest speaker came and he said, you know, Black people have a tendency to really just accept the bare minimum. And he also talked about the fact that, case in point, and he was talking in February, he said that here we are talking about Black History Month and the coldest and the shortest month of the year. And we're happy about that. Now, Brother Omar was talking about how we need to have difficult conversations. Well, one very important difficult conversation that we need to be having is about each other. One of the things that I've heard, and yes, number one, don't get it twisted, there is systemic racism. Number two, some of our brothers and sisters who are part of the same religion that we are of, they got issues in their heart, no doubt. They got to work on their faith and try to get that junk out of them. Well, one of the things as well that needs to be done is we Black folk particularly need to be able to make a distinction between what is systemic and what's due to our own hands and what we're doing. All right. Too many times I've been hearing that, you know, and I again, I don't want nobody get this the wrong thing, because sometimes people get a little upset about this. In Chicago, for example, a weekend may not pass where you might have an excess of 50 odd people being killed due to gun violence. Is that because of the white man? When we get mad about the fact we don't like the Arab, we don't like the Indian and everything because they selling the junk in the hood and everything, the question I want to ask is this, and this is something I challenge people that look like me, this. History is really important, man. It really is important. Booker T. Washington, for example, was a person who was like, yo, y'all got to do for self. He was before Marcus Garvey. He was like, yo, y'all got to do for self. Figure out how we can do cooperative work, etc., and stop depending upon everybody else to get us out of our pits. Y'all feel me? So that also is a conversation that needs to be had. But I don't think people want to have that conversation. I think Omar does. I think Malek might want to have that conversation. Jaffa might want to have that conversation, right? So it's not just simply about talking about the systemic problems. What about us? 75% of households, man, it's sad, unfortunately, only have one household. As a Muslim, that really bothers me, man. I'm talking about Black folk have like single households, man. Islam tells us don't commit illegal sex and what have you, man. Have sex with your wife or your husband. All right, that's stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we as Muslims, we should be able to not be afraid to tell Black folk, for example, and Latino brothers and sisters too, and even Asians, look, man, check this out. This running around and carrying on everything that's going on, that's not how we get down. All right? We love you. We care about you. All right? But maybe you ought to consider a different way. Maybe you ought to consider that. Not preaching, just giving them an alternative to think about. I think those are the type of things we ought to have as well. It's uncomfortable, but guess what? Prophet Muhammad, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, had uncomfortable conversations with his companions too. And they took it like women and men, and they grew. And that's how God elevated them, and to the point that he was pleased with them. That's what I would offer.
And then Brother Malek, if you can, you know, and then we're gonna finish this out.
I can't really say anything after that. You know, kind of just going off of exactly what they said is that, you know, when we're talking about justice and leadership and all of these different things, at the end of the day, it starts with you as an individual, right? We're talking about all these systemic issues that do exist. We're talking about all of these inequities and different things of that nature, but we got to start with ourselves at the end of the day, right? The man in the mirror. It always has to start with us. We have to ensure that we are not those people that are part of the problem, but we are facilitating the solution, right? So that, you know what? Let us have these honest conversations. But if I haven't even had this honest conversation with myself, how in the world am I going to start this conversation with someone else? That's you know, duplicitous. Like it doesn't make sense. How can I actually have that conversation with a bunch of people, with a group of people, if I haven't even thought about it myself? At the end of the day, it starts with me, right? And you know, God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he tells us in the Quran, and he commands us in the Quran that we have to stand for justice. He tells that to us. And he tells that to us as individuals and as a community. But we cannot forget that individual portion, because it comes first and foremost, because I am responsible for myself. And it has to start with me. And I have to start having those difficult situations. Me as an individual, my family, right? All of the people around me. And that's how true change starts. Is that when we start having those conversations with ourselves, when we start making those changes within ourselves, and then our close, you know, the people who are close to us, and then we go out large, because that is the way, that is the only way we will be able to do that, through the help and the guidance of Allah and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I'll end with that.
Beautiful. First and foremost, I want to thank you, great, amazing heroes, for your time. Sheikh Jibreel, Brother Umar, Malek Bendelhoum, thank you guys so much. I want to thank everybody here, whether you're a Muslim and especially non-Muslims, for getting out of their comfort zone and coming into an interfaith talk and learning and, you know, engaging with us. Thank you so much, everyone who was in the chat. I want to just highlight real quick what we're going to be doing for the next couple days. Tomorrow we have a talk about afterlife. Please come through to that. And then after that, we're going to be having our Muhammad Ali Day of Service, where we're going to be donating food and working with Sahaba Initiative, my man Malek Bendelhoum, and working with them. So please, thank you for that. Also that. And then, so, you know, we're going to be having a good time. Please, everyone, to come out and let's go out there and work. I'm going to end it off here. And I just want to say peace and blessings to everybody. Thank you again, everyone. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Brother Jaffa. May Allah bless you and all the people that came, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.